Welcome back to another episode of Straight from the Heart, the Heartland Black Chamber official podcast. I'm Kim Davis, your host. And today, I went to the Congressional Black Caucus conference this year, and it was this past week. And one of the things that was so wonderful about it is that the theme was made for this moment, unity. The whole theme was about unity. And so today I want to talk about unity beyond the stage. The thing that really got me was when we talked about uniting and how important it was in this climate. And at this time, it was really incredible that we were all galvanized, we were ready, we were fired up. And then when you tried to reach out or to talk to the people who was actually talking about it, trying to find out how can we do the work, they were unapproachable. So I'm going to give it grace and say that's a lot when you have to present to someone or present to many and everybody's coming at you. But there should be in place the next step. What next? We're galvanized. We're ready to go. Who's going to give the marching orders? So who better to have this discussion with than my friend, my colleague, my co-host, Khalid Abdul-Kadir. You know what, Khalid, I had said this a little bit before we started the podcast, that next year it is imperative that this team, this production team, including my co-host, yourself, that we do some tapings, one from the CBC, which is the Congressional Black Caucus, and it is the annual legislative conference that they have. So it's CBCF, which is Foundation, ALC, which is Annual Legislative Conference.
Yeah.
And we'll go through some of the things. We'll probably talk about that in another episode because I think that's also important. But I want to talk about how are we going to make a difference after we got everybody fired up and galvanized and ready to move, but there's no plans.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have been more on the mark with that one. I mean, I came in here early, even before we started with the other guys, and I was talking about this exact thing. And as you know, I'm doing my PhD right now in American Studies.
Yes.
So I study America. And my main focus has been like the Black experience in America. So I've been looking at everything from pre-slavery, post-slavery, civil rights, Black literature, film, all kinds of things. But looking at the Black political movements from the early 1900s through the 1960s and early 70s, I'm always wondering, what things worked, what things didn't work, what can we learn, what's relatable with today, and how exactly do Black people move forward at this point?
Yeah.
Politically.
Yeah.
And what does Black America look like a year from now, 2 years from now, and 3 years from now? And I kind of feel like, and this is just my opinion, I feel like Black Americans are kind of, I wouldn't say that we're in shock right now.
Yeah.
But we are kind of like just sitting on the bench right now.
Yeah.
Just kind of watching and observing. And there's either going to be a certain situation or an individual or a group of individuals who then sparks the regeneration of Black activity from a social and political perspective. And I've been wondering what that is. And that includes the plan, like you said.
So the thing is, when I left the CBC, and so let me back up. I got there on Wednesday, and I think this is my third or fourth year, because I'm always inspired when I'm in the presence of my people. We are an amazing group of people. We come in all kinds of shapes, forms, fashions, shades, we have all types of ideologies, and we even have our own styles. I mean, just a plethora of style. But I came away
We're
from
not
there.
monolithic.
Yeah, absolutely. I came away totally inspired, but challenged. And, the energy was electric when we were in the conference and in the sessions.
Mm.
And the message in those sessions were more than powerful. We had legislators like Hakeem Jeffries. We had Jasmine Crockett, Ayanna Presley, amazing woman. And then we had other guest speakers. Of course, our Congressman Cleaver is always, a wonderful person. But now that I'm back home, we remain siloed. And there were a lot of people from Kansas City. Actually, of the Missouri Conference, Kansas City was the largest of the delegation.
Wow.
And but the thing that is challenging to me, as you know, yesterday the governor signed the redistricting order illegally, and but we are still siloed.
Yeah.
And I guess the big thing for me is I can continue to complain about there being no plan, or I can create a plan.
That's absolutely true. And, I think the biggest problem, like me personally, the biggest problem I have is I am kind of always expecting that next step to happen external to myself. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hear about it. Somebody's going to say something or somebody's going to do something. And then that's what's going to spark even my own activity. But you're absolutely right. You got to spark it yourself.
You got to spark it yourself. Yeah. So I think about, and I'm going to be quite transparent with you because I'm sure
I like transparency.
So when I started thinking about how do we galvanize? How do we create a plan? What do we do? I said, I'm going to talk to Khalid. Because number one, I need a strategist and someone that understands war room.
Yeah.
This is war.
It is.
This is war. Yeah. And I was telling someone today, in war, the biggest problem with the Black community that I see beyond the unity is the lack of planning, the lack of strategy. There's a saying that says that if fail to plan to fail.
Yeah.
So if you fail to plan, you might as well plan to fail.
That's right.
And our problem is we don't plan and we keep falling. And the reason being is we haven't set our war room, and we have not allowed the generals, the colonels, the admirals, we have not put them in place and followed the leader. And then those who were leading us did not empower us to do the work that we need to do. So the thing is, how do we get behind closed doors and start looking at, we all know the issues. We all know the problem. We all know that in order for us to hold the people that are supposed to serve us accountable to us, is that we have to go collectively and remind them that you're only there because we put you there.
Right.
This is going to be a space that I'm asking you to step in with me.
Hey, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. And I mentioned the word monolithic earlier. And I think that in the pursuit of trying to convince people of our humanity, I think that Black people have always strived to prove that they are not monolithic.
Yes.
And that there is a variety of thought and diversity, which there is.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have to, we don't have to prove that. But as far as the strategy of moving forward, me personally, I think that it's time for Black folks to become a monolith.
Come on, elaborate. Come on, talk to me.
Okay, so I don't know how long it needs to happen or how the specific makeup of it is, but it's in that same vein of you're talking about unity. But Black people need to become monolithic. We need to streamline our political focus.
Mm-hmm.
We need to streamline our economic focuses. And we also need to take very strong and specific social and cultural stances internally.
Come on now. Come on. Yes.
Yeah. And so, I have my own ideas of what that could look like, based on just my experience being in the military, my experience working in the government for 20 years. I've worked in the intelligence community. I've worked for 12 different federal agencies, as well as having a military career, serving with the Marines as a combat medic with the Navy, serving with the Marines. And so I think that Black America needs to coagulate. And coagulation doesn't mean that everybody's automatically the same. It just means that everybody's facing in the same direction.
Yes. Yes.
And so, from a media standpoint, for example, imagine this, because I don't see this exhibited in the media. So you can go to Fox News, you can go to CNN, you can even go to independent media on YouTube, and you can see podcasts or news segments that have like some kind of table, and then they have the various different ideologies around the table.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, we don't have something like that in the Black community. I don't see it in independent media. I don't see it in mainstream media. I don't see it anywhere where you have like Black Republicans sitting with Black Democrats, sitting with Black independents, sitting with Black street executives.
Yes.
You know what I mean by street executives?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Street executives.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because,
but that's important.
Yeah, because this is our politics.
Yes.
Our politics is street.
Yes.
Our politics is prison.
Yes.
And then our politics is also, the education. Our politics is healthcare.
Housing.
Yeah, housing. We have a very dynamic political field.
Yes.
And we don't have anything out there that are getting all of these fields in a room together and having them discuss ideas, just so that other Black Americans can see all these ideas in one place, having the conversations that we're all having with each other, either in person or on social media. Because the fact of the matter is that when the federal government uses AI to scour its own databases for Black things, to remove those things, that was actually the first time that AI had been weaponized against a people. It had been used as a weapon, right? So, we talk about this thing about warfare. So I was a warfare specialist in the military, and something that, Russia did that was unique when they invaded Crimea. It was the first time that there was a land, sea, and air assault combined with what was it they used? Not electronic warfare, but I believe it was electronic warfare, because they knocked out like the radios and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they combined like all four of these elements for like a massive assault, and that had never been done before.
Right.
Well, the first time AI was used in the United States against a people was against us. It just happened this year.
Yeah.
And the government employed it against us.
Yeah.
And so it don't matter if you're a Republican or independent or a Democrat or a street executive or whatever it is, when they remove Black information off of their sites about like
that's right,
Black generals and Black Medal of Honor recipients,
that's right,
and things like that, Black women who served in slavery, right?
I mean, this weekend was the last weekend at the National Black Museum in Washington, D.C., that they will be able to display anything on slavery.
Exactly. And so that doesn't matter what your politics is.
Yeah.
You are Black.
Yeah.
And the reason why it is a race thing is because the statistical data over the past 100 years says that these particular people are performing in the bottom brackets of every socioeconomic category in existence in the United States and have been consistently at the bottom for more than 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's a race issue.
Yeah.
And so the statistical data and the mechanisms of the current administration make these things a problem for every Black person, regardless of what your politics are. So you need to talk about it. Whether you're a Republican or whatever you are, you need to be talking about it because it's going to impact you.
Wow. It is something that I have tried very hard to get us to do here in Kansas City, and that is get beyond the surface of scarcity. We actually operate on a scarcity mindset. So that has been a strategy of our government since I can remember, since the so-called freedom of Black people. So when you think about we're operating on scarcity, and it puts us in that crab in the bucket mentality that if I get to the top of the bucket and I see you see me getting there, you're going to grab me by my foot or my ankles and snatch me back down instead of pushing me over so that I can turn around and put my hand down. And then if I happen to get over, then I don't turn around and reach back and start pulling you up. So when we start talking about developing these strategies, and I think that's probably where this all starts. I think about, how did the civil rights movement work? There was strategies placed in, the march across Selma, the bridge in Selma. That didn't just happen and when a bunch of people met at the bridge on Saturday morning and just jumped on board, not knowing what's happening, why, or when.
Yeah.
They just started going. That's not how that happened.
Right.
There was a leadership. There was strategies put in place. There was communications made so people knew where to go, when to go, and what time to be there. Same thing with the March on Washington. That was strategically planned and put and well orchestrated. And it was done in a manner that could not legally be called violent or against the U.S. or terrorism. It was actually people who came together and said enough is enough, and then called out America for who America was then.
Yeah.
And I think that part of our problem is we're afraid to call America out for who they are. We are still in the mindset that although we say I am unapologetically Black, when we don't operate in our Blackness, we are apologizing.
Yeah.
Historically, the villages have come together in America. Now, I can't tell you, I tell people all the time, don't get me wrong, I love my African roots. I know that somewhere in my roots there is Africa. However, I'm not an African. I'm an American.
That's right.
That was born in America. You are identified according to your origin and not your ethnicity. And so if I were anything, you could call me an American African. That I might accept. But to call me an African American is, number one, taking me outside of America, saying that I came here after I was born, and it's not true. But even when we in America at a time when we were trying to build up and become a equal part of society, we came together. And so I believe when we operate in these silos and we are constantly wanting our 15 minutes of fame, or our 5 minutes of fame, over the strategies of how do we actually listen to one another and then look at the best outcome for the next, for the solution. So how do we attack this one problem and together collectively knock it off? And it might be your issue that we attack first.
Mm-hmm.
And me saying, okay, we're going to attack your issue first. Let's do that. But instead we want to know, if it's not me, if I'm not leading it, if my idea, if you have issue and I come in and I'm trying to tell you how to attack something that you've been working on forever, without even accepting that I'm on the outside looking in, but you've been on the inside.
Yeah.
Then we're not operating in our Blackness that we say that we are.
Yeah.
We're not operating in the cultural I guess inheritance that we've been given. We're operating in this ideal that we have to listen and follow along with the system that is holding us back, instead of creating the system that helps us to move forward.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things you said that are key there. One, and I agree about this idea of Americanism as a Black person, because on St. Patrick's Day or, on all these other holidays or days that are associated with European heritage, you will see European Americans start to harken back and reach back to where they came from, where their people came from.
That's right.
We was here. We here.
Yeah.
There is no record. There is no history of it. And so our people, our culture was actually developed here.
That's right.
And so if there is one people, who is American, quote unquote, without an asterisk, it would be Black people. And obviously this is the imperialistic form of America and not what the natives and indigenous had prior to the establishment of this country. But as far as this country goes, Black culture is the only culture in this country that is indigenous to the country.
Yes.
Yeah. So we didn't come over with a German community and start Germantown.
Right.
And,
Chinatown.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
We built it here. Everything was built from what was seen and experienced here in this place.
That's right.
And so when Black people start to speak about strategies, about ideas of what Black people need to do politically, socially, economically, et cetera, I think a lot of people in America tend to view that as almost an anti-American thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or it's something other than American.
Yeah.
It's radicalism or whatever. No, this is an American idea. When we talk about Black people doing what Black people need to do, this is an American thing.
That's right.
And I think that as Black people, we should really own that.
Yes.
We should own that.
I think about the Jewish community. The Jewish community was ostracized. They were treated like they treat Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't just say Jewish community. I'm going to say just about every other culture that comes over here.
Yeah.
They tend to find a way to galvanize, come together, and figure out how do we invest in our future.
Yeah.
And we tend to think that the government is giving them all these subsidies and opportunities that they're not giving us. But if we really, really think about it, whether you like it or not, we've been given subsidies since the freedom or since I'll say civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
That gave you the projects. Instead of us using that as a way to build our financial base, we got comfortable with paying a little and realizing we only had a little. But had we done, because look at the Irish, look at the even the Jewish community. They lived in slums.
Yeah.
They actually come from slums and ghettos and holes in the wall, and they figured out, how do we galvanize together, invest, and in our investment, raise up our people. So if you go into a Jewish establishment, most of their employees and staff are Jews until they get to be huge.
Yeah.
So I take the blocks, H&R Block, Jewish community. They started their little tax company with $10,000 from their end out of New York. I know the story because Mr. Henry Block told us. But over the time when they were building, I remember when my parents used to go to H&R Block office to get their taxes done, and it was always a little Jewish man. It wasn't Mr. Block, but it was always a little Jewish man.
Yeah.
And they had these little offices and desks, and they were all little Jewish people doing our taxes. And now H&R Block is a mega tax corporation with their diversity is amazing. We don't have any idea how much money they have in different areas, and they keep it very private. But now they employ any and everybody, and they have thousands of employees, but the money always goes back to their community.
Right.
So when I look at our community, we do have large Black corporations that employ a diverse group of people, but they have their employees are more majority, or I won't say majority, more white than the Black community.
Well, let me give you a perspective on that. So I was actually having this conversation a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how these different communities, even people from Central and South America, cross the border with $2, and then in a decade, they own houses, got a restaurant, all these things like that. The Chinese community came over here, built the railroads, settled in these towns, established Chinatowns, thriving. You know what I mean? Koreans do the same. The Jewish community does the same. The Polish community does the same. All these different communities who have all experienced like persecution and some kind of discrimination, even here in America, but also where they came from. A lot of them were fleeing persecution from other places and came here with nothing and still establishing stuff like that. And people say, why can't Negroes do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's two caveats here. Number one, each one of those communities maintained what I call a cultural touchstone. Right?
Yes.
So it don't matter if the Chinese are here in the United States building the railroad, being persecuted, being discriminated against, this and that. They don't never lose their way because they can always reach back and touch China.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And what China does for them is China functions as that cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Where social behaviors, activities, things like that, customs, traditions are maintained. And so even as people may seemingly spread out across the world, may seemingly lose their way and things of that nature, that touchstone is always going to have a current.
Yeah.
That's going to require them to snap back into alignment.
Yeah.
Or they have an example that they can snap back and align to, right? And the same thing goes for Central America, South America, and so on and so forth. Black Americans don't have a cultural touchstone.
That's right.
Right? We have not defined ourselves culturally.
That's right.
In this country.
Yeah.
We have a unified culture that we all exhibit and we all express, and we all engage in it on a daily basis. We understand it. It's a language that we share with each other that's unspoken because it's so deep with us. But what we haven't done is we haven't taken our cultural elements and solidified them into a definitive and distinct cultural dynamic, something that you could actually go look at, its traditional clothing, its traditional music during weddings, how it buries people and stuff like this, right? How the family functions. So that's number one. Number two is because Black Americans are actually the only indigenous American identity. And again, I need to restate that I'm talking about the American imperialistic identity of when this country was formed. The Native Americans, Native and indigenous people of this land obviously had this land, and this is their land. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But when the colonizers came over here and colonized America and then kidnapped Black people into slavery and brought them here, the Black identity became indigenous to this country because our culture and our identity was killed and destroyed and wiped out from where we came from.
Right.
So the reason why the Black dollar doesn't circulate in the quote unquote Black community as much as these other communities do is because the American community, the American country is America. That's why we give our money to white people. That's why we go play football for white teams and we build businesses and hire all these white people. And it's because this is actually all we have. We never established a Black country or a Black touchstone culture or something that was all Black that would teach and instill Black people to constantly reach back and reinvest into this Black circle and stuff like that, like the Jewish community does, like the Chinatowns do, like the K-Town, Koreans in LA. Black people didn't do that because we are Americans. That's why we don't do that. And so I think that Black people need to reaffirm exactly how American we actually are. And from that point is where the strategy starts to take hold. And we look at the first thing that Americans do when it comes to how do we start to generate social, political, and economic footing. We start to look at our natural resources, our products, right? So everything in America is based on some kind of market.
Right.
Okay. And from that market, you have everything. The market creates the educational experience. It creates the politics. It creates the religion. Everything comes from the market.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so because, we were not allowed to own lands to sell crops. We were not allowed to own lands to sell crops to then produce the kind of revenue to create factories and fund our inventions and make cars and do other, we missed out on the great industry that is the United States.
Right.
And all these other communities that actually came from other places to the United States and actually still hold heritages in other places besides the United States. What they do for the Black natural resource, our body, is they just harvest it. Rather it's prison,
right?
Rather it's, like I said, on a football field, basketball court, right? Or just the culture in general. And so, our culture actually is our natural resource. And if we want to talk anything Black from a political perspective, economic perspective, whatever, it has to start with the natural resource that we control and we generate for free. It grows out of our pores. You know what I mean? It is our ground. It is our crop. It is our manufacturing. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's our culture. And I used to have this conversation with my dad because, my dad is 75. And, he always used to talk about how he'd be so frustrated to see black people doing, what he would call like some knucklehead type stuff. Like they just want to dance and do all this and that. And I had to, after studying the history of these black movements,
Right.
I'm like, that's actually the area where we did not tap into. You know what I mean? Was the quote unquote buffoonery
Yeah.
our natural resource?
Yeah.
Because while black folks were being lynched for being black, those same white people who would lynch black people would then go try to find themselves laying with black women. That body.
Yeah.
The women would try to lay with black men. That body.
Yeah.
They would go watch black baseball.
Yeah.
That body. They would go and listen to black music. That culture. They would go and eat black food. That culture. They had to still engage with this natural resource that we produce, even after they would, eliminate us, whether it was physically, mentally, spiritually, politically, culturally, or whatever. Our culture has always been the thing that's penetrated through all communities in America and globally. And we have to harness that resource first.
So let me ask this question, because we're gonna go back to the beginning of this podcast. We know the issues. We know that in order for us to maneuver through this environment, we need a strategy.
Yeah.
We need a plan. If we are made for this moment, what are we going to do in this moment? And I'm going to ask you this question. So I'll just say this. You're given the leeway to lead the charge, to lead it, to be the Martin Luther King of the day, or the Malcolm X, because I told him I wasn't Malcolm or Martin. Maybe Rosa, I'll sit out on the bus. But again, you're given the leeway to do that. What would be your first move?
My first move would be to figure out a way to decentralize the leadership.
Elaborate.
So, and I use a common pop culture reference because it's easier for people to understand. So in the Black Panther film, they depicted this fictional city of Wakanda as being a kingdom that was run by different communities.
Right.
And the communities had common votes amongst each other, and then any community could challenge for like the protectorship.
Right.
But that still didn't change each community's role in like voting for what was best for the community. You know what I mean? And so it is imperative that each aspect of the Black community becomes its own leadership category.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so think of it like a business or like a country, right? Or military.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So you may have like a general, for example, and then you have battalions, and then you have divisions, and then there are officers throughout. There's a leadership structure all the way down to what the Marines would call a fire team, which is 4 men. And there's a leader in those 4. And the reason it's set up like that is because if any aspect of that chain of command gets cut off from the rest of the chain, there's an individual there down to every group who can then take charge and start to direct the smaller entity. And that's what allows these entities to function as a whole. And there is no area of the snake where you can sever to stop the whole snake.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, I would invite, I mentioned earlier, like, beginning with some kind of media apparatus that gives the Black community exposure to the widest, the widest view of Black thought. that is available. And each one of those Black thought categories represents a group of Black people who are good at something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So Black Republicans, for example, are good at enterprising. They making money.
Yep.
They're very good with white folks. They got businesses and stuff like that. Well, you need that piece.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of the Black Democrats or whatever, Black liberals are in academia. They can do research. Right? So there's a category. You got your street executives.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
These are soldiers.
Yeah.
These are the individuals who need to be out with the youth, getting them active, getting them, physical fitness. And so everybody has a specific role that they play. And there is no figurehead, because we got to learn from the past. You mentioned Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Both of them individuals were assassinated.
Right.
Yeah. And what you would want to happen is you would want, in the event there was assassination,
somebody else ready to take them. I say it all the time that our biggest problem is we don't create that chain of leadership.
Yeah.
We follow someone that is out there with the energy and the charisma and the connection, and not afraid to go up against the status quo. And if we see others doing it, it's kind of like you're in a crowd of people and you see one person running, and then you see somebody else running behind them. Then you see 3 or 4 people running. Yeah. Then all of a sudden everybody starts to run because we're following. We don't know what, but we're following. And then when that person gets cut off, we all sit down going, okay, that wasn't about me.
Right.
And so, I agree. We need to have, but that also goes to that strategic plan.
Yeah. So that would be number 1. Number 2 is to base all activities within the culture itself.
Okay.
So, like, for example, if you ask somebody to do something if you ask somebody to engage in an activity that's outside of their normal day-to-day activity, you're asking a lot. And what you're asking for is you're asking for them not to really do it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But Black people are Black people all the time.
Yeah, they are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when you develop strategies that are fueled, functioned, and forwarded by just being Black, just by engaging in your culture itself, well, now you got an apparatus that moves a little bit differently. And so the strategies have to be based in the activities that Black people typically engage in on a everyday basis. You know what I mean? So, Black people like to eat. Black people like music. Black people like, fashion. They like to express themselves. So these are the areas where you would then implement the activities that people could do to further things. And I just give you an example. My kids like what they call toddies, the chips. What do they call it? Y'all know what it is?
Takis.
Takis. Yeah.
Takis. Those hot chip things.
Takis. Yeah. You got Takis, and you got wrap chips, right? Wrap chips. Wrap snacks. Okay, got you. My bad.
Okay, so you don't have no little kids, and neither do I. I was like, wrap Takis.
I see the bag, and then I'm not paying attention to it after that. But that's culture. That's Black culture that, obviously has been commercialized.
Mm-hmm.
But, those are places where you can engage messages and stuff like that. So just by, kids and, eating these chips that they like is a way for them to be active in the politics or in the activity of furthering, this mission for Black people and so on and so forth. And it's those tiny things. It's like when you ask somebody to move an ocean, if they try to imagine themselves doing it in one motion, they're never gonna do it because they're just gonna sit there and be incapacitated, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the task itself. Instead, what you want to teach them how to do is just sit down next to the ocean with a spoon and dip a spoon of water and then pass it over your waist, because that's how you move an ocean, with these tiny, tiny things and not this big major activities.
Right.
So you get people to engage in these tiny, tiny activities, and they collectively result in these large movements and stuff like that. And that's what was happening during the Civil Rights Movement, where you had primarily Black women who were, coming out of their homes, cooking meals for people, getting people to show up, talking to them about stuff, getting them to show up to the bus boycott and stuff like that, because, contrary to popular belief, people think that Martin Luther King was the one who just made all this happen. He didn't. He showed up after the movement was already forming. It was Black women forming those movements in Alabama and stuff like that. But they were doing it through these very small person-to-person connections. A lot of Black women did hair. My grandmother did hair. My grandmother was the chairman of the NAACP chapter in Duluth, Minnesota. She did hair. That's where she had her her interaction with people.
Right.
We talk about Black people where we got a lot of our oral history and our understanding about behavior and our the traditions that we do share came from being around the dinner table with our grandparents, right? So these are things that are happening as a result of the natural cultural evolution. And so that's how these activities have to be based. They have to be based around Black culture. Everybody can't be an entrepreneur.
This is true. This is so true.
Yeah. And this idea that everybody is suddenly going to adopt these quintessential white values and mechanisms for elevating themselves economically and politically, they just don't work for Black people. It's just not part of our culture. So we have to look at our own culture and figure out how we can leverage our own culture to make these things happen for ourselves.
Well, I've got to wrap it up. We are not through talking about this topic. This is just the beginning, the first episode. We will talk about beyond the stage. Yeah. What are we going to do, and how do we make ourselves seen and known? I do appreciate every time we're together, which is going to be quite often. So be ready, audience. Before I wrap up, I always want to recognize and acknowledge that this podcast would not be a podcast without the production team of AGA. They are the finest. I say we because I always feel like I'm a part of the team. They are the finest production team this side of the Mississippi and in the Midwest. If you are asleep on them, wake up, because they are fire. Be looking for their independent film, Ma Cherie. I just heard that it's going to drop real soon. So don't miss out. And if you really want to know their work, go back and look at some old episodes of Bel Air. And then also check out the Hallmark movie, Girl in the Garage. Keep it straight.
Lifetime movie.
Lifetime. Did I say
close
Hallmark
enough?
Again?
Close enough.
I don't know why I want to. No, it's not. Hallmark is all lovey-dovey and all that, and Lifetime is truly Lifetime.
Yeah.
So again, Lifetime. I'm sorry. Again, you all probably have stock in each other anyway, but again, Lifetime movie. And I call myself being smart, saying the right thing. Don't miss it, and keep it straight. Straight from the heart, and don't be afraid. Take courage. See you next time on Straight from the Heart.